Hey guys, Mr. Thaxton here. Happy Wednesday. I hope everyone is having a great day and a great week so far. I enjoyed reading your CNN 10s yesterday and about the quote of the week. And I hope that you have started to understand what the Silk Road was and what it was used for. We're going to talk a little bit more about that today, and hopefully it will help you understand it just a little bit more. The great news is, if you watch this, once you have finished watching this, there is no assignment for you to do tomorrow or today. I'm sorry. So Wednesday, all you have to do is watch the recorded lesson, and there's no assignment for today. So surprise! I hope you're happy. Anyway, so I wanted to go through a few things. So we talked about the Silk Road a little bit yesterday. There's some words I want us to know, and the first word is merchant. So a merchant, what is a merchant? A merchant is a person who makes a living from buying and selling goods. We might think of a merchant as a trader or a salesman. They are buying things and selling things to one another, to different people, and so that is a merchant. The other word is navigation. Navigation is the science of determining a ship's location and direction of travel. So if you're navigating, you are in charge of where the ship goes. So if on a car you have a navigation system, it's kind of like your map, and it's guiding you on where to turn, in order to get to your location. So just to kind of review real fast, the Silk Road, right? The Silk Road was very long, and it was done by boat through navigating the waterways, as well as by land. And we talked about it, that it was a long way. It was a dangerous way, not only because of the mountains and the terrain that they had to go through, but also because there were people and they had to go through different countries to get to the different places. And that was a big safety concern as well. If we think about this is a map that they had back when they were doing the Silk Road, and it is very different than the map looks today. And you got to think, this is based on what they knew, so it's not as proportioned correctly. And of course, they didn't even know, even though it says America right here. So this was actually a little bit afterwards that this was made. They did not know where anything over here to the left or to the west was. So people in Europe were traveling to China or Asia and trying to sell and trade goods, and the merchants would do that. So when you think about it, what kind of problems did they face on the Silk Road? There was tons of them. One of the first ones, Europeans had to pay Arab merchants high prices. So the price to trade was high. The people from Asia and from the places they were trading, all up in this area right here, they knew what they had was valuable. And the people of Europe wanted those things more than the people from Asia wanted things from Europe. So we talked about silk in China, but there was other things as well. Also, goods from Asia became expensive. Not just expensive to purchase the things, guys, but also they were expensive to ship. You think about it now. If I was to buy something on Amazon, I will pay for the item, and then I have to pay shipping for them to mail it to me most of the time, right? Every now and then we'll get excited and we'll have free shipping, right? But shipping usually costs between, depending on how big the item is, between probably a little bit less than $10 for most items. So shipping back then, of course, there wasn't mail, but it cost money to have people travel from one place in Europe to on the Silk Road. That was expensive. They had to pay for these merchants to do their shopping or to do their trading. So the Europeans, even though the Silk Road was so good, they wanted a faster, easier, less expensive trade route to get to China. And so when you think about it, they're like, okay, we have all this way by land. Of course, it goes a little bit faster by boat. So maybe there's a better way that we can go and get over there. Well, they really didn't know how big Africa was, for one. And two, they didn't know what was westward. So when you think about these different ways, they were a lot of unknowns. The Mongolian Empire, which was in China, collapsed. The Silk Road became dangerous. The Mongolian Empire was kind of in charge of the Silk Road. Mongolian Empire had a very strong army, and they kind of protected the Silk Road. Even if they couldn't protect the whole thing, if word was put out that some people there was dangerous parts of the Silk Road, the Mongolian army would go there and take care of business, basically. Sorry, I had to get a sip of water. So, one of the first countries to explore other ideas of the Silk Road was Portugal. Portugal and Spain, kind of right next to each other. If you think on your map, Portugal and Spain are right here. Let's see if I can make this bigger. Portugal and Spain are right here. Portugal's here, Spain's here. I kind of lumped them together, even though they're two separate countries. But Portugal was one of the first to start to explore different ways. So you think about it, they went by ship to the Middle East, and then they would go by land all the way to India and China and all that stuff. So and if they didn't have a ship, they had to go through Europe to get to it. So that was a way. It was taking them along. They're kind of the farthest away from China. So when you're the farthest away, every mile counts, and they were looking for a faster way to do it. So it was not just that simple, though. I make it sound that it was simple. Oh, we'll just look for another way. Well, remember, their map, this is all they had for their map. So they were like, what can we do? And so they started going through these different ideas. So what made them search for a waterway? Let's look at some of the reasons why they were searching. They couldn't travel by land because their enemies controlled the land routes, right? So if they were let's say that Portugal was having issues with Turkey, which was in this area right here. If they had issues with Turkey and they get all the way here by boat, and then they needed to go from Turkey over to China, India and China, a lot of times the Turkish would not let them pass. And so it became almost like a war, and they had to think of ways to get around it. Prince Henry, who was the Prince of Portugal at the time, didn't believe the legends about monsters and other dangers in the sea. So a lot of times they were scared to go by boat, especially on waters they weren't aware of. So that's why they kept on having to, they were having trouble. People didn't want to search for a new water route. But Prince Henry said, I don't believe in those legends. Those are false. And so he would send men out looking for waterways or water routes. I think it was pretty easy for Prince Henry to do that because he wasn't the one on the ships, right? So it was easier for him to say, I don't believe in that. But he did start the people starting to look for a different water route. The other way was Prince Henry encouraged sailors to sail south along the African coast to Asia. As time was going by, ships were getting faster and stronger and bigger. So he's like, well, we know we can go down the African coast, and then we can just follow it back up and then go around. It seemed easier said than done. one, Africa was a lot bigger than they imagined. Two, the waters were a lot different than what they had up in the European waters up here. So it wasn't just a long journey, it was a different journey, and it ended up being a dangerous journey. But once again, Prince Henry's like, oh, you can do this, guys. It's not a big deal. But it was a big deal. So when you think about it, guys, the Europeans loved the Silk Road. When you think of the Silk Road, I want you to think about a long distance, a hard journey, and a dangerous journey. But it was very good to Europe, even though it took a long time and dangerous and hard. The other thing, though, is that they wanted something to happen faster. So Europe decided, it's Portugal first, started to look for other ways to explore and go on expeditions to get to China. This all leads to what we will begin talking about, exploring westward. So Portugal started by going down Africa, the coast of Africa, coming back up and getting to it that way. But it wasn't until these explorers that happened in the 1400s started to think, oh, what if we go westward? If we go westward, could we land in China and the Indies over here? So that's kind of leading to our next talk about explorers. And we're going to really dive into how explorers, I want you to think about how they felt as they were starting to go westward and what they discover and the importance of it. And it turned out into a race between the European countries trying to race to get to China and India and from the West. And what happened is it changed from trying to get to the Indies and to Asia westward to discovering and claiming land westward, which leads into a whole different topics that we'll get into. So with that being said, guys, I hope you learned a little bit about the Silk Road. The Silk Road is very interesting to me because so many people used it. It was such an economic, meaning money maker for both the Asia countries, and the European countries, as well as the African. So when you think about that, there's always ways for it to get better. And that was the goal, is for everyone to make it easier and better. So with that being said, guys, I hope you had a great Wednesday. Remember, no assignment today. Get caught up on your other work or finish iReady if you have not done so. And I will see all of you guys back here Thursday.